Okay, welcome everybody to Courageous Conversations. My name's Annette Stanton, and I'd like to introduce you to Natalie Lockwood. Natalie, thank you so much for being here today with our Courageous Conversation. And Natalie is the Research Coordination Manager at Main Roads, and we've known each other. We've just sort of worked it out. I think it was about 6 or 7 years we've known each other now, and we've had a wonderful journey into our Courageous Coaching Conversations. And today I thought I'd invite Natalie because we've been talking a lot about, you know, in the world of business today, of the 4-day week. So Natalie, before we go into that, and to find out more about your journey into a 4-day week, as we've explored a lot of the background and what goes on behind the scenes there, physically and emotionally. Yeah. So before we go into it, do you want to just briefly share with everybody a little bit more of your background?
Oh, golly. Okay. So I guess my university training, if you want to start there, is as a civil engineer. Mm-hmm. And I've always found myself taking quite an unusual path through engineering, sometimes sort of going against the well-intentioned advice of professionals around me. But I found my way towards research, transport research, mm-hmm. Which has taken me to lots of the, I guess, people side of engineering, or the untapped people side of engineering, should I say. Engineers are not known as being people. So I found, I guess, my niche in helping engineers and technically minded people to communicate with myself, and also for me to then help them communicate with other people, unlock problems, discuss common areas and uncommon areas, and just solve problems, really. That's how I see myself. And then I guess in the background, I've dabbled in the arts for most of my, I guess, professional life, in my 20s and 30s, and now into my 40s. So playing instruments. And
I love the drums in the background.
Yes, the drums. This is Mabel.
Just stress relief, is it?
Yes. Well, it's funny. Lots of people say that, like, oh, do you take out all your anger? But I feel like if you go there angry, your brain is not working properly anyway to play. So it's Mabel, as she's known, is not an angry place, but certainly a place for much enjoyment. But yeah, so lots of instruments, and certainly the drums has been a really exciting new addition for this year. So I'm absolutely loving it. It's so good. It's so great. Yes. So that's just a little snippet of who I am and what I enjoy.
Yeah. So let's talk more about this 4-day week. And we were just talking about, you mentioned that you have a new terminology that you would rather be known for now. Do you want to share more about that and what you noticed?
Absolutely. So my transition to a 4-day week, and we'll certainly unpack that more, was very, I guess, it had to come at that point in time from a really logical place of what are the steps I need to put in place to get to that point. And then now that I've achieved the 4-day week in terms of all the life changes that supported that eventual shift, it's definitely morphed or evolved into much more of a conversation around balance. And I'm not a huge fan of the term work-life balance. I think it can be a really complex term, and it can be sort of sometimes a really difficult term to find common ground on, whereas I feel like balance is a term that a lot of people can understand, basically. And so for me, it's balance in friendships, it's balance in workload, it's balance in movement, it's balance in rest and recovery and sleep, and even in balance in, you could think about it financially as well, in terms of money coming in, money going out. Is everything sort of finding a nice middle ground? And so for me, that word just kept on coming up in so many conversations. So I feel like it's definitely my word of the year, or of the right now.
Yeah, it's an equilibrant balance is what I'm hearing, which I love to call it also alignment in honoring your true values and your priorities. And you talked about the balance of life, which is the whole life, the whole person, which I like to also call being a leader of your whole life. Yeah.
Yes.
So this is the 4-day week that we're talking about in the terms of balance with your work life, your home life, your financial life, the whole you,
the
health,
whole thing.
Everything, you as a whole, that has you feel this is who I am and this is what's important, and then stepping that in. So
Yeah.
what was it about this initially 4-day week that why was that important to you?
That's such a huge question, isn't it? Really, I know, but I'll try. And given that we've talked about this for a long time, I think for me it definitely came from a physical need. I had sort of health complications, and my body physically was telling me that my choices, my life choices, were not supporting me to be in, as you just said, in alignment. It was obvious from so many clues that my body and my mind were giving me that I was not in alignment, that I was out of balance. And so I think for me, a 4-day week seemed, again, like a tangible thing that I could aim towards. I didn't know how to get there when I first thought of it. And I remember us having numerous conversations over the years about this, but it seems like something I could see it. People were talking about it, and colleagues were working 4-day weeks. And so it was a phrase that I could, I guess, attach to as some sort of life raft. I didn't know how I was going to get back to shore, if I'm using that analogy, but I had this 4-day week life raft to hang on to, and then I could sort of work it out from there. But yeah, and I think for me, it seemed again like a tangible shift that I could make that would support what my body was trying to communicate to me, and my mind and soul were trying to communicate to me.
Listening in. Yes. So, it's like, it's interesting because you talked about your body was indicating your health.
Yes.
And a lot of the times we believe, as high achievers especially, because we've done a lot of work on the high achiever within yourself, and the high achiever is used to pushing and driving, making things happen. You're responsible. You even become over responsible. You have a team of people around you that you need to manage. Yeah.
Yes.
As well as. So I'm just wondering, just for those people that are listening in, that's my little doggy there. What was the feeling out of balance, so that people can tune into that? What was happening for you?
Yes, and it's funny because even as you're saying it and asking me to go back there, it's like my body is kind of reminding me of how it felt, and it kind of feels, it's, people might associate it with that cortisol feeling, or that feeling of when you're going to say do a speech somewhere, and you feel like your body is kind of going to a different mode where your heart is racing, or you feel like all of a sudden there's sort of this adrenaline in your body. So it's different for everyone, and it would feel different for everyone. But for me, it was just this feeling that my body was sort of always on the move somewhere, and my mind felt the same way. It was very hard for my mind to slow down and for my body to slow down. And so what that would result in is something, say, like a migraine, my body would force me to stop for 3 or 4 or 5 days, because it was almost like it was the sort of the white flag of surrender to say, you're not listening to all these little messages I'm sending you. So the only way I'm getting through that you need to have a break is to send you this big message of pain, and then you must stop. So I feel like if I could like a time machine and I could go back to talk to previous me,
yes,
the conversation I would be having was really about how do you feel. And I remember us having a lot of conversations about how do you feel, and it seems like such a simple question to answer, but I think a lot of the time we just say, yeah, good, thanks, how are you? Yeah, good, thanks. It's
not a feeling word.
It's not a feeling. No, it's good, or tired. But there's so many layers to how do you feel. And I feel like once you start to have a willingness to actually admit that maybe you're not feeling great, maybe I'm not enjoying that job, maybe I'm not feeling satisfied, maybe there's not enough fun. It doesn't mean that you will descend into those emotions and never recover. It just means that you can then unpack a small part, just one layer. There's many layers, so just unpack one layer and say, a great example for me, as you know, is fun. I just realized that there just was not enough fun in my life, whatever that looked like, whether that was fun with friends, listening to music, playing music, whatever it meant for me, there just wasn't enough. And for me, that was a really strong value that I then, through your help, started to identify and honor. So I feel like, to answer your question, long answer.
Beautiful.
It's really about just trying to answer that fundamental question of how do I feel, and not being afraid of the answer. Just let the answer just have its moment, and then just unpack those layers with empathy and curiosity for yourself.
Yes. And, you just reminded me of the journey that I went down in this path as well. It's like we're running the show a lot of the time from here up.
Yes.
Yeah. The show of our life. And this is where I'm good, thanks.
Yes.
Great, thanks. So I remember even, having a general response when someone would ask me, how are you today? Yeah. I'm amazing, thank you. But it was a real disconnection.
It's all up.
But what I learned was that the more you come down into your body and you truly listen in, that is where the intuitive guidance, the higher achiever comes in with emotional intelligence, physical intelligence, spiritual intelligence. That means getting to know your true self, getting to know your true values, getting to know your true priorities. And you literally create a new relationship between you and you.
It's so true. And it can feel a bit, it's like, hi, nice to meet you. And it can feel a little overwhelming. And I think that sometimes people might sort of shy away from that, from moving from the thinking into the feeling. But again, I think it's just do one step at a time, and you gradually will become more aware of your feelings and more aware of how it sits in your body. And even I know, we've talked a lot about sort of the meaning of pain, or the meaning of disease, or maybe not the meaning, but the usefulness, that there's often some sort of learning or message or understanding through that dis-ease. And so for me, it was whenever I had pain, I'd sort of just try and create a little bit of awareness of, like, what can I do? How do I feel? What choices are open to me in this moment of headache or whatever it was, to go, okay, maybe a glass of water, maybe some fresh air, maybe 5 minutes with the dog, whatever it is. But just having that, opening that door a little bit, and then a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more. And so you just become more in tuned, and it becomes easier. The messages don't need to be so loud, because you're used to listening in.
And you know what? It's you start to unlearn. So you discover, what's really happening, and reconnect because of the disconnection. Which means the automatic. I'm in automatic here. And we're trying to, this is where the imposter syndrome comes in, because we try to become, this is who I'm stepping into, and this is who I need to be in order to be an inspiring leader, an encouraging partner, whatever friend, whatever category. All of that, right? So then just to tap into the listening of the room for a moment around you talking about this, when your body's not in a state of ease. So when you have burnout, pain, any discomfort of any kind, then it's an indicator to listen into the body's intelligence, because the pain is actually trying to get your attention.
Yes.
But most of the time we block it, and even there's plenty of ads that go out there and, shoulder on throughout your day. Take this pill. You can keep going through your day. But that's fine. But have you made time to reflect on what was that pain trying to indicate? Yes?
Yes.
Because what's happening is it's trying to get our attention to be able to listen into the higher intelligence of the body, which streamline. I like to call it your free flow zone.
Yeah.
The responsibilities and the roles and expectations of whatever that might be for yourself, so that you're truly tuning into those small steps you're talking about.
Yeah. And I think sometimes when you're sort of opening up that awareness, and then you go, well, you think to yourself, or you might recognize areas of your life that are really not serving you anymore, but it seems too big a step, right? You're in a job and you realize, like, oh, wow, I've gotten really burnt out in this job. But I'm too burnt out to even think about a new job right now. So I think sometimes we have a bit of an all or nothing mentality, that we want to make these huge life changes, but we're trying to make them at a time where we really haven't it's not expanded, but created enough space, you know, that expansive feeling to know where the next step is. And so I feel like, for me at least, it was much more useful for me to make small course corrections, small changes, and create more space. And I feel like I'm still doing that. We always talk about the body language, the expansive spaciousness, and then you'll know and you'll feel when you've found the right new step, the right new direction. So I don't feel like making these changes is about big changes and sort of like quitting your job or feeling like you have to. It's actually just creating enough space so that you can actually understand how you feel, and then feel again, not think, but feel when you know the right direction or the right opportunity has presented itself. And that was probably the biggest hurdle for me, is that I didn't know really how I felt. And so I didn't know when an opportunity came. I remember us talking about some of these things. I had the opportunity to do this or this or this. And you would, I think, ask me that question, go, how does it feel? And I'd be like, oh, I don't know. I don't know how it feels. But shouldn't I do this? And shouldn't I take that on? You know, the pre-sale for the course is only open for, 2 more days. And shouldn't I jump on board? And I remember, you weren't providing advice, but you were providing guidance to say, if it doesn't feel like it's the right time, then you don't need to take that opportunity just because it's there. So, and I feel like that was a real turning point to realize the value of creating space. And we should probably expand on that so it makes more sense to people listening. But
and in what way would you like to do that right now? What's for you to say that, which is true, absolutely.
Because in terms of spaciousness,
what does that mean for you, and how did you do that?
It's a feeling in the body completely. Even I'm sitting here, I can feel that it's a feeling of it's almost like taking a really deep breath after you've been shallow breathing for a long time, and someone says, oh, just take a breath for 5 counts, and then and your body feels brand new. And so I think for me, spaciousness it's a culmination of a whole lot of different choices. So it could be as simple as not filling up your diary on the weekends as much, whatever that looks like for you. It could be not writing a to-do list for a particular day. And what I mean by that is, and we've talked about this again, the things that need to get done will get done. The washing loads will get put in, or the dishes will get washed, or whatever it is, the people will get visited. But we don't have to fill every segment of the day with and then I'll do this, and then I'll do this, and then I'll do this. So for me, spaciousness is just about letting those moments appear in the day. Don't have a plan. And then in that moment, and we've talked about this so much as well, just go, how do I feel? How do I feel? I've got an hour before I need to be in my next thing. How do I feel? And sometimes that the answer to that would be like, I just want to sit on the couch and watch something completely mindless, because at that point in time, that's what I needed, because I needed that sort of mental break. Whereas now I would, if I ask myself that question now, my answer might be different. Well, it'll always be different. Every day is different. So I feel like spaciousness it's a practical, there's a practical element to it in terms of how you set up your day. But then it comes back to the feeling again. It's just coming back to, how do I feel? What do I feel like doing? And what I've noticed is, if I go through my days, because sometimes we fall off the wagon, so to speak, and then we have to, all right, what do I know about balance and alignment? And what would Annette say if she was here? And then what I find is, when I create that spaciousness, when I try not to overfill my time, things get done. Even in terms of a work scenario, which can seem quite structured, what I'll find is I'll get phone calls from people that will come in and ask me questions about things, and maybe on my list was like, oh, I should call that person, I should progress that. But I find the opposite happens, and suddenly I don't have to push things so much. Things just happen organically and without effort, and connection happens. So that's the best. I don't know if that's a great explanation of spaciousness, but that's what it feels like for me.
Well, absolutely. Where you're at right now, because you've done a lot of work on yourself in regard to getting here. So, and I'm checking in the listening of the room of high achievers who are flat out.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So yeah, I'm talking to you people out there who are going,
hi.
We've been there.
We've been there. Oh, I have so much empathy.
You say to someone who's going, I don't know how. You said you didn't know how at the start. So how did you start?
How'd you start?
I will need to take try and reflect back on where were you? What were the steps that you took, right? To get to this spaciousness that I have no relationship yet with.
and I think that's such a good reminder of what is the first step. I think for me, at that point in my life, it didn't feel like my work life was manageable, controllable. It felt like all the meetings that were in my calendar were set, and that the workload was the workload, and I couldn't influence that. So where I started was in my non-work time. So that could be evenings after work or weekends. And so what I tried to do with that time is, one, just not say yes to everything. So even, yes, I know, ooh, that feels yucky. But, even if a friend asks you for a coffee catch up, and when you see that invite, if you're really honest with yourself, your first answer is like, I just can't be bothered, or I just can't deal with that person's load right now, or I just want to stay in bed. If that's your first instinct, it probably should be your answer. And I'm not saying say that to your friend, but what I'm saying is say, I can't do it this weekend, but I would love to catch up XYZ, or just say, I will come back to you. I'm just trying to recover, restore my body at the moment. I will come back to you as soon as some time opens up, or something like that. Whatever feels true for you. But I feel like sometimes, and I don't know if women are worse at this than men. I'm not sure if there's a relationship there, or it's from the stories our parents tell us, or society tells us, or our friends tell us. We have this compulsion to say yes to everything. And I just don't think it's helpful, because what I have noticed, and we have talked about this, is when I've caught up with friends and family in my life in moments where it feels like the right time, the engagement and the interactions feel so much more enriching and energizing and organic and authentic than if I just say yes because I feel obliged to say yes. Because I think when you're sitting there under obligation, your little ticker tape parade in your head is running, and you're thinking about your to-do list, and you're thinking about the clock, and you're thinking about all the pain or the headaches that's starting to emerge in your head, and you're not fully present in that coffee catch up. So I feel like just being honest with yourself and be honest with your friends as well, and just say, look, I'm struggling. I need to carve out some time for myself. I hope you understand. It's I just you supporting me through this is really helpful, if that feels comfortable. Or just keep it really simple and just say, I can't catch up now, but we will soon. So in terms of those people who are absolutely maxed and vibrating up here and everything in their head is full, that would be my first place to start, is just look at the little pockets of time that are optional, and making a choice to prioritize yourself in that moment in whatever way works for you and feels comfortable.
Prioritizing self. Yes.
Big one. Much easier said than done. And it's not easy. It's none of this work is easy, but what you gain back is amazing. Once you just move through the discomfort, then you come through, come out of that as a completely different person, and I think a much better version of yourself.
So what did you notice by starting to because that's the spaciousness, you're creating space, the start of that spaciousness we were talking about. So and there's a great saying that I learned many years ago: between the stimulus and the response is the power to choose. So what you just said was invitation came in, stimulus, you were opportunity between the stimulus.
Yes.
Before you responded, you gave it space.
Yes. Yes.
To choose, do I really want to do that, before the automatic? Oh, yes, I'll do that. But then you go, oh, I've just,
Yes.
I'd rather stay at home and have a quiet night, but I've said yes already. So between the stimulus and the response, this is the power to choose when you give it space. So I personally made a promise to myself that I was never going to answer an invitation there and then.
Yes.
I had to get to know myself and what I really wanted to do. So I had to create space and say, look, I'll get back to you within 24 hours. And I'd check in. How does that feel? Do I really want to go, yes or no? Or am I shooting on myself? Am I feeling like I have to do it in order to be liked, accepted, recognized?
Yes.
All those,
tricky thinking processes.
And we don't realize it's happening because it's happening so automatic.
It's so automatic and it's so ingrained, I think, and we see it in our friends, we see it in our family members, we see it probably in movies and how to be a good friend, that whole story that it's or a good sister or a good brother.
Or a great leader,
Absolutely. And it's not a case of, I think for me, and this took me a while to learn, was that my greatest ability to influence people in a positive way has nothing to do with advice I give or the words that come out of my mouth to a certain extent. It's really around the choices I make. And that probably sounds a little bit obtuse, but by that I mean when I communicate with a close friend that I need to take care of myself, and that might mean some alone time for me rather than friend time. I feel like it's providing an example to that friend who may or may not be struggling with similar thought patterns to consider that, to reflect on that for themselves.
Yes.
And it may not.
By you giving yourself permission to be your true self, you give others permission to be their true self.
Yes. So well said. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. And never from a place of judgment, like never, ever.
No. Absolutely. Well, this is where, when you stop judging yourself and create a beautiful relationship, with yourself, become your own best friend, in other words.
Yes.
That's when you start to have authentic relationships in the workplace, at home. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like recognizing my inner self-talk and realizing what I was actually saying to myself and how critical and constant it was, that sort of inner voice or that inner mean girl, as they say. Once I tapped into it more, with more awareness, then tried to modify that language gradually, because you can't go from like, I'm trying to think of something, you can't go from say, don't be so lazy, work harder, to you can't go work less hard. I mean, you don't jump from one to the other, but you might transition with, I think that's a really good effort for today. And then you transition to gradually, more gentle or kinder or more appropriate language.
Yeah,
it's all an evolution. It's none of this is black and white. As we've said, it's all these little steps. But that's what I found when I found that compassion and that awareness for myself. Then suddenly, I just had so much empathy and awareness for people around me, and just gave them so much more grace in terms of everyone's doing the best they can. If they could do better, and I use that word in inverted commas, then they would.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. You're already being your best self.
Exactly.
Based on your conscious level of awareness right now. Otherwise, you'd be doing something different. So why put pressure on yourself saying, oh, I need to be my best self? Well, you already are.
Yes. And so are they. That person who cut you off in traffic
absolutely
is literally doing the best they can. So just let it go. And I know that can be a triggering statement, because I've had this conversation with some friends and they've been like, no, I'm not there yet. I'm not there. And that's okay. It's all right.
So I want to come back to your leadership role.
Sure.
And your team. And in what way did you transition into this 4-day week as such? What was the process there for you to let the team know, to let
Oh gosh. Okay. So there's a couple of layers. One layer was entirely medical, entirely health related. It was transitioning to a shorter week using sick leave because, with GP support, that whole layer had to happen because I did actually have, documented burnout, and physically I had to capture that as a process with my employer. And they were fantastic at sort of, working out what are the steps and how do we transition to, gradually working up from less hours to more. So there was that element to it, which I think helped in a way because it put some structure, and, by bringing in a GP into the conversation, that helped because it just meant that it's not me having to always advocate for myself. I have this medical professional who's helping me advocate with my workplace. So that was one element. It was literally quite structured and paperwork based, which, this part really appreciate that.
And you enjoyed that. Yeah. Yes.
We have a form, we fill out a form, everyone knows what to expect. And also the benefit of that is then I wasn't berating myself about how many hours I worked a week. It was, this is the new agreement, and everyone understands that some weeks are going to be better than others. And we just worked at that. So I wasn't looking at a 5-day week and wondering why I could only work 3 days. The 5-day week had become smaller, and we had a new target to work towards. But because people understood what was happening, it didn't always feel like I was having to talk about sort of medical things and talk about my health, which was, again, beneficial. I don't feel like, for me at least, talking about health, I feel like can almost manifest continued poor health, continued dis-ease. For me, I'd like to have a much more positive and I guess solution focused language. I'm quite aware of that now. So that's one element.
Yeah.
Another element in terms of the actual transition was to visualize, with your help very much, what did and I'm going to use the in inverted commas, I'm going to say ideal. I'm not going to say perfect. We don't like the word perfection, but ideal week. What would that look and feel like? And I can remember, I think at first, when you would ask me this question, all I could say was, it's really light filled. There's lots of really beautiful light. Not like I'm going towards the light. Don't go towards the light. But that's all I knew when you asked me that question at first was like, I feel like there's light, it does, and whether that's physical or sort of actual, sunlight and those sorts of things. But gradually, through our conversations, through conversations with other trusted people, I was able to visualize how my ideal week looked and felt. And so eventually where I got to was, yes, sunlight is important. And also feeling like my workday had a start and an end, and that it didn't spill over into times of my week that I didn't want it to. So for me, that was my weekends and my evenings. I wanted to finish my job and then have boundaries and mental boundaries. So it wasn't still bouncing around in there. I wanted mental kind of peace. And then another aspect was, I really recognized for myself that I really appreciated fun, creativity, and positivity in my work environment. So I'm not a person that, say, if I was a lawyer going into court and debating and arguing all day, that would be a complete mismatch for me. So even just recognizing from that level, what does my ideal week look like? That was really helpful, because then when job opportunities did appear, or I was having a conversation with someone who could create something for me, I could quickly identify, that actually aligns. That aligns with that picture, that visualization that I have in my head.
Yes. I know. I'm just remembering something then too. A conversation that we had a long time ago, and that was really getting to help with the visualization. It was about identifying what truly brought you joy in your natural strengths at work, because there are certain roles that we can take on and feed into thinking that we have to contribute there that drain our energy.
Yes.
Right. So which means not just a role, a physical role, but it's also a communication style, a leadership style. So we had to tap into all those natural strengths and abilities that came through. So hence, I'm going to bring it out here, become the observer of yourself at work, to notice what was really happening. Who were you being? How were you acting? What was your leadership style in a natural way and in a way that felt fragmented?
Yes.
Didn't feel good at all, right?
Yes. Yes. And where you would naturally flow, and then where you would sort of come away from something feeling quite drained. Absolutely.
That's right. Absolutely. This is a free flow zone I love to get us to really tap into.
Yes.
Because that's our natural strengths, our abilities, our talents that we express.
And we've talked about before how when you're in the zone, things sort of just come naturally. They're effortless. They have an ease to them, and I find that very much in the workplace. And as an engineer, this does not equate. There is no 1 + 1 = 2 here, but it's very much a universal understanding now, and a universal awareness that I think about how I want things to be. It could be ideas. It could be, I want next year to be more about this, or I want next year to be about implementation, say, for example, or quality of stakeholder relationships. Something as simple as that. But by actually thinking about it and having that idea and that visualization of, it might be how it looks, it might be how it feels, or whatever the visualization
combination of both. Look and feel. Absolutely.
And then I find you just naturally bring that to life without it needing to be this sort of planned, executed, spreadsheeted kind of exercise of many steps. I still love a spreadsheet, don't get me wrong. But it just feels like things just come together very organically, and without it being exhausting. You're just still in the zone, and I feel like when to push and when to pull. And whereas before, that high achieving mindset can be really just a push. You're like, I must. It's either pushing yourself. You're pushing your ideas onto other people. I don't need to do that anymore. I just create a space, and then I've noticed people just come to me. They'll just pick up the phone. I've got a question about such and such. I'm like, oh, fantastic. Or I'll see them in the corridor, and conversations will ensue. So it just feels like things just click into place. And I don't know if I'm explaining this very well at all.
Yes.
It's quite hard to put into words, but it just feels there's an ease to things, which is great.
Which is what we all want, isn't it? The ease and flow.
Yeah.
It comes back to the very first thing that you said earlier on, was that I didn't know how, right? So it's these simple steps that you're talking about, by listening in, noticing yourself talk, noticing, only say yes when you know you really want to.
Yes.
Giving yourself full permission to say no, because you take that energy with you wherever you go, right?
Yes.
If you say yes to something and you're bringing that energy, and then it's like it diminishes the quality of the conversation. Now, this is whether it's a communication with work, home, doesn't really matter, which then brings into your natural leadership style. See, my belief around leadership is all about knowing who you are and being the leader of your whole life, and expressing your natural strengths, gifts, and talents in all those areas that naturally are who you are, which is presence. Presence.
Yes.
The best of you is presence streaming through, right?
Absolutely. And I feel like presence is sometimes confused with performance. Sort of, like it's about what you wear and how you walk, and sort of
nothing to do with that.
It's nothing to do with that. It's actually about your state of mind and your state of being. And what you're bringing into a conversation.
The energy and vibration of who you are being is more powerful than what you are doing and what you're wearing. It goes way beyond.
Absolutely. Yes.
Another conversation. Maybe we can have that next time.
Yes. To be rather than to do. Chapter 2. Yes.
Yes, that's right. So what changes have you noticed have occurred now in your life and your business, your business life, and as a leader of your whole life?
I think what I've done and what I'm still doing is gradually moving away from parts, people, ideas, patterns, you could put many words into that, that don't serve me anymore. And sort of you could have a Marie Kondo approach to this, where you sort of acknowledge them, thank them, and then let them go. That idea. I'm trying to think of an example. So a story I would have told myself from childhood that I probably absorbed from my parents or my parents' friends or school was that if you work hard, whatever it is, then you will succeed. And I feel like for my sort of personality, that is not good advice. Because sometimes, I could use a perfect example of a relationship that I stayed in for longer than I needed to, even though that was my life's journey, and I'm completely fine with that, because I just thought, I just got to keep working. If I just work really hard, then this relationship will work, and we'll get there. We'll achieve what we, and you can see all this body language is like tightness. Whereas I think if I was thinking more about how it felt, how does this relationship make me feel, and do I feel balanced and supported, then I would have made different choices and maybe moved away from that sooner. So I think the biggest difference, is understanding what I can and what I will let go of or move away from, and then not immediately try and fill that gap, opportunity void, with something new. I'm just letting the space be, because
feel the space, don't fill the space.
So true, true. And I remember even I was having a conversation where I was like, I don't think I'm doing that right. I don't think I understand it. I remember this so clearly, and we unpacked it. And I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. So that's literally what I'm doing is I have a life that has, over the years filled up with people, with things, with objects, with ideas, with stories, with jobs or hobbies. And I'm really just gradually, very gently, and in whatever timeline it happens in, there is no rush. I'm just sort of almost like sorting through things and going like, thank you, but that can go. I don't need that anymore. And then just creating space. And then as new things emerge, ideas, people, I just kind of let them sit for a while and just see how they feel. How do they feel in my body? What are all the things that come up for me? Is there obligation attached to this? Just because I met someone new, do I feel obligated to suddenly connect with them in a really full-on way, or just let it wait? And then the answer or the decision will present itself. But I think having the ease, the faith that process will evolve in its own time, and that I don't have to force it. Just go with it. But I mean, if you told me that 5 years ago, I would have been, what? Well, how long is it going to take?
So then, this is a beautiful way of, I guess, reviewing. And what are the top 3 recommendations that you would like to share as real practical tools that someone can grab hold of and say, yes, I can apply that to start my balance 4-day week, wherever you're at in your world of being a leader of your whole life.
Yes, 3 things. I'm trying to think of really just good starting points. I think one is definitely the yes, the hell yes, or the hell no. So I didn't make this saying up. I heard it somewhere that, when an opportunity or a decision needs to be made, if it's not a hell yes, then it's a hell no.
Yes, that's what I say.
Yes. And I really believe in that. And I think sometimes we don't want to hear the hell no. We don't want to, and it's going to be a tiny voice. And so I think that's my advice with that one is, it's not, your body's not going to shout it to the rooftops. It's going to be this tiny, tiny voice that's sitting underneath all of the other layers of expectation and conditioning that'll sort of be going like, oh, maybe not. Probably not too. It's going to be tiny. But just pause. As you said, give it 24 hours. You know, you don't have to, a lot of things you don't have to agree or make a decision on the spot. So give yourself a little bit of space and a little bit of ease and a little bit of grace to consider whether it might be a thank you, but no. One of my other ones is probably going to be a little left field, but I think it will help really high achieving people to start to understand feelings, which is, and again, this was from you, that when someone gives you a compliment, you know where I'm with this. When someone gives you a compliment, all you have to say is thank you. Full stop.
I learned that the hard way.
I know. And there will be a million sentences in your head, but my hair looks great, but, or my makeup looks great, but, or that was great, but, zip, thank you. And just sit with all of the stuff that will appear in your body and your mind and your soul when you say that, because that is going to tell you so much about yourself unexpectedly. So that will I think for a lot of people would start to unlock that how do I feel, because when you just accept a compliment and understanding what all this stuff that comes up, I think it will just as you said, it's a simple one, but it can be quite a good journey to go on. And I feel like it's quite easy to apply. Number three. Or okay, we've done an easy one, so I'm gonna sort of throw a big one, which is to, when you're ready, and whenever, in whatever way feels right for you, is to really look at the stresses in your life. So I know it's again a little left of center, but you know me. This is how I think sometimes. And the reason I say that is because we know scientifically that stress has an incredibly detrimental effect on the body. There's no question. And yet I find we'll often jump to so many other salves, whether it's movement, talking, eating, supplements, organic foods, smoothies, whatever it is. We'll jump to all of those things when I feel like some of the biggest and most beneficial life impact you can have for yourself is actually just looking your stresses square in the eye. And there's going to be layers, and you don't have to tackle them all at once, and it would be impossible to, but just start to, again, just peel through the layers of all these elements of stress and just start to work out maybe where you can make a different choice, just one little different choice. And it's going to be different for everyone. But I feel like once you start to unpack stress meaningfully, and for me, it was probably the most difficult, but the most rewarding part of this whole evolution. And it's still unpacking and still evolving. Absolutely. Life happens,
It does.
But I think having awareness of when stresses or new stresses or even existing ones are coming in, what can be released? How does your, for me, I had a big struggle with the Taylor Swift concert tickets yesterday, and I got really sort of emotionally quite frustrated. And so I had a shower, because I know for me, water can be really cleansing. I put on a great pop song that I love, and I just had a release. I just went, let's let it go. You don't need all this stress. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Everything's unfolding exactly as it should. So I think understanding what stresses are in your life, and also what opportunities you have to release them, even if it's just 1%. All those 1%'s so powerful. So there's my top three.
You know what? And biggest thing, and the theme throughout the lot that I'm noticing, and this is something that I realized, was that every little step that I take is a progression towards the actualization of my bigger picture. Every little step. So I started to personally acknowledge all those little steps, knowing that it was always going to contribute to the bigger picture of whatever that is at any given time to anybody. It's all different, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And that's when I had to really get present to what's this little step right now, let's focus in, because it's a whole, complete result in this
Yes.
moment, instead of chasing after the results like this.
Yes.
This action I'm taking right now is complete. Done.
Yes. I love that. Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
And go gently.
Yeah, gently.
Gently.
So that's, is there anything else that you want to add? I think that's a beautiful summary there.
I think so. Look, I think it's, as we know with these conversations that we have, there's so much to it. And I feel like sometimes it could feel overwhelming to a person who's just getting started, or just wanting something different from themselves, and they might not know what that is just yet. But I think that would be, I mean, I think go gently is a great ending note. And it was one of the first breakthroughs that I had.
Yes.
I'd imagine these sharp edges, and then I visualized them just softening, just soften the edges.
Yes, yes,
gentle.
Yes.
And so I think that's a great reminder. Just none of this needs to be, there is no timeline, there is no pressure, there is no expectation. This is just you for yourself, and you're on the exact journey that you're meant to be on, and the universe is unfolding exactly as it should for you. Yeah. So just go with it. Just enjoy it.
Thank you, Natalie. That's wonderful.
Oh, good. Thank you, Annette.
Wisdom. No, thank you for going the journey. You're most welcome. Thanks for being here today. So just, for those people tuning in, so whether you're, as in Natalie's situation, and I've worked a lot with high achievers who have gone through a burnout phase, to tap into what balance and alignment looks like and feels like to them. And, you don't necessarily have to be in that burnout phase to get to that, is what I'm saying. You might even feel certain stresses. You might feel anxiety. You might feel uncertainty. You might even feel like you're selling your soul in the workplace that you're in. So taking those small, simple steps of tuning in, listening into your own self-talk, getting in touch with your feelings, the true feelings of what's important. And if that's something that you would like to know more about, then please feel free to reach out. I'm Annette Stanton. I do coaching. I've coached people all around the world for over 30 years now. And this is my life's work. And I'm very passionate about what I do around transformational leadership and helping people to be the leader of their whole life, their whole self in their highest priorities and what's important. So Natalie, thank you once again for your pearls of wisdom and for sharing your journey with us. And
thank you, Annette.
You're welcome. We look forward to continuing our conversation. I'm sure that we will have another one very, very soon.
Yes, so great. Thank you. And just sending my love and ease and grace to anyone watching today, because I feel like it's just enjoy. Go gently.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. We'll talk
no worries.
soon. Thanks, Natalie. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into Courageous Conversations. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.